everybody.
You're
It is
back.
the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am back. I am Espo.
Yay.
He's Hayden, and we're talking Mercury hoops. This is more exciting than the games have been.
Oh, yeah.
Our excitement level is
It's
here,
through the roof.
and the games have been here over the last few games, but that's all right.
Yeah.
We still love the Mercury around here. Plenty to talk about. But before we get to that, we were just talking about this off air. Yes, I am in fact 5% famous, according to my daughter.
Okay.
So you guys can respect that 5%. Anyways, let's get into the weekend that was for the Diamondbacks. Friday night versus the Liberty.
For the who?
For the
to Liberty.
You said for the Diamondbacks?
I said
well, the Diamondbacks played
Friday
too.
night against the Liberty.
Yeah, but you said
No,
let's
you-
get into the
you
weekend
didn't say-
for the
you didn't say-
Diamondbacks.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't say Diamondbacks.
We were talking
Well,
about
we
the D-backs
talking-
before the show started.
See, I love the Mercury so much. I don't want to say they had a terrible weekend, so I'm trying to shift blame to another team playing. The
A
Mercury.
great weekend,
Valid-
by the way.
Mercury had a terrible weekend
Yes.
on the court as they lose to the Liberty. And look, if you ignore the third quarter, not as bad
Yeah.
as the rest.
They would have won the game.
You put the third quarter in there, a 32-point third quarter for New York.
Yeah.
Not the greatest.
It was terrible. I mean, I was telling people before the game, I'm like, listen, and New York's got this player from France, Marine Johannes. Like, if y'all want some good basketball, if y'all want to be entertained, go watch her. She'll be on a fast break, she'll pull from 30 feet, and she'll knock it down. And I mean, I think in the first half she had, or actually, I think it was the first quarter. I think she had 14 points, either first quarter or first half, like off the bench, and just was killing them from three. And she's one of those off balance, shooting to her side, fadeaways in transition, and it's like that's hard to guard. But
it makes no sense.
yeah,
how she can make
it doesn't make sense.
No.
But it was one of those where she just kept making them and making them and making them, and you know, you look up at the scoreboard like, oh, we're down by 16, like in a matter of minutes. And so, I mean, not only that, but Benijah Laney had 22 points, very efficient from the field as well. Like they got beat by a team with more talent, but they got beat by a team that knows how to play together.
Yeah, but let's be honest. I mean, it's not. It wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't rocket science.
Yeah, it wasn't. That wasn't the game that may have been the surprise this weekend.
Yeah.
in terms of losses. But was that the death knell for this team? Is that the end of the slim playoff hopes right there? Was that the end there?
You know, I thought so, and then Sunday happened.
Well,
And then
I mean, that could be the nail, and then you hammer it home a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, but I definitely do think that if it was close, if they didn't lose by 20 plus to the Liberty, I think you would have said, okay, you know what, the Liberty are hot. They beat Vegas. You know, they're playing really well, and it's like, you know, like you can still keep up with them, but it wasn't like that at all. And I was like, maybe you start thinking about it. Maybe you start thinking about the 2024 WNBA Draft. I do want to do a quick shameless plug for our diehards because I wrote about that before Sunday's game. If you go to gophnx.com.
This guy's gotten so much better since the last time I hosted.
Yes.
He's now plugging his own stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like this. Look at that.
But basically I go through like who we should draft, and or by we, the Mercury. I'm not in the organization, so I wouldn't know. But a little bit later, I'll give you some kind of sort of some insight as to who I think we should draft. But nonetheless, it was the nail, and then I think Sunday's game was the hammer that really put it in the coffin.
Well, that 32-point quarter, I mean, could you tell after the game, was that just demoralizing for this team? You do all the things right in the first half, you know, and then that happens, the damn burst. I mean, I'd imagine that even for them was like, okay, the hope's been fun, but this proves we're not that team.
Yeah, a lot of it was too like they just came out flat. Like they came out really flat, and it was weird because they were pushing it for the first half. Like, I mean, I think there was a couple minutes left in the second quarter, and I mean, they were only down by 5. I mean, they had a lead for a decent chunk of the first quarter. Like, they played well. It was just one of those. I just thought they just looked gas.
Yeah.
Like they just looked exhausted. And I don't want to say part of me doesn't understand why, but New York was on a back-to-back. They played in Vegas, and then 12 hours later, they're in Phoenix. And it's like, I don't care who you're playing. Like, you got to show some kind of intensity when you're playing a team like that. But, I mean, nonetheless, it's going back to that third quarter, it's tough. It was definitely a tale of two halves. I mean, and Nikki Blue after the game even talked about sort of the difficulty of rallying the team together, especially when New York got so hot.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially with the different lineups that we have. Like, I don't know if any time this season we've had, these lineups. So it was a little bit difficult just trying to get people in the right spots towards the end. But as far as frustration goes, it's a difficult time. We don't have our entire team. So our coaching staff's message to our players is just, we have to continue to fight and rally together. And we did that at some parts tonight, but not the entire night.
Coach speak. I mean, that's what it
Coach speak.
What it is. And you know what? I get it. You have that kind of an outing, but at some point you can't point to, well, we haven't had these lineups having to run together too much out there, because this is the game.
Yeah.
People get injured, things happen, players miss time. How do you respond? How do you counteract? How do you get people ready? And I get it. She, stepping in and having to take that head coaching seat and trying to fix, a plane that's already on its way down in terms of how they're playing is difficult. But to me, again, coach speak and excuses basically is what it amounts to.
Oh yeah, it's hard too, because like everybody just kind of looks pissed off too. Like in that game, I remember like Mariah Jefferson, like just I mean, I'm sure she would even tell you she didn't play her best game that game, but it was a lot of like she's like, just visibly frustrated, her facial expressions, like she's like snapping, like come over here, like I've been trying to get a screen set for the last 10 seconds. And then, you got 6 on the shot clock, and, she's forced up to put up a shot. But I do kind of want to transition it over because, throughout their wins, they shot the ball really well. But in their losses, it has not been pretty. I mean, on Friday, they shot 4 of 23 from 3.
And you're not winning any games.
Oh, yeah. Not at all. I mean, and, DT shot 35%, or no, sorry. She shot 3 of 16. The team as a whole shot 35% from the field. Espo, you know a lot about covering a team that knows how to win, that knows how to,
I also know about covering a team that knows how to lose pretty well too. Yeah.
From your perspective, like, it's gonna sound like a very basic question, but how critical is it to just making your shots? Like, how can that ultimately determine the mentality that, that this team would have?
Well, look, it's simple. When you're a team that's in a bad situation, like this team has been this season, when you start missing and you start missing early, it's that feeling of, oh no, here we go again, which then makes it contagious, right? Because every player gets in their head, oh, we're back to this. This is going to happen. Like, inevitably, that's the mindset. We saw it when the Suns were winning, 24, 25, 19 games in a season. I covered those teams. The same kind of mentality creeps in. And look, this team, and we talked about it early on when I was here with you, is far too predicated on Diana Taurasi. I love DT. DT still has those moments, like when she crossed the 10,000 point threshold and had an amazing game. But if you expect her to be that every night, night in, night out, and carry your team, you've constructed the team poorly, because she's just not capable of being that every night, nor should you be asking her to be that every night. And that's the problem right now for me with this is, you're missing shots. Diana's out there 3 of 16. Somebody's got to help her. Somebody else has got to be that fire starter for this lineup to start hitting shots, let them all start believing, and not get in that mindset that, here we go.
I love it. I mean, an interesting thing too is I really picked up how New York played them. I mean, New York is, again, a great defensive team. I'll say this for a while. Watching Benijah Laney play, it just shows how underrated and mostly how undervalued she is as a two-way player. And there are just so many times where, she was matched up on Sophie for a lot of the games. She struggled from three. There would be possession. She would be switched on to Diana. And she's a strong player, but she's not, she doesn't get too reach happy. She doesn't foul. She doesn't have unnecessary fouls. And like, when you have a team that knows how to play defense, and a lot of their defense was really just, we're going to play zone, and if they kill us from three, they're going to kill us from three. But they played a lot of man on DT, especially coming off of screens, because that's her big thing, is she'll do a little curl action and she'll get some space. But like, people got to move. People just aren't moving. And I don't know if that's because BG's not on the floor. I know on Friday as well, they were without Megan Gustafson, who, in my opinion, should get a huge contract from somebody, hopefully the Mercury. But if it's from somewhere else, it's rightfully deserved, because even on Sunday's game, you see what the difference she makes in there, her ability to stretch the floor, post up, and just be another level of reinforcement for DT, which she hasn't had much of.
Yeah, and you know what? This is where I love Sophie Cunningham, the energy she brings, but in a game where the rest of your team's struggling, she needs to be the one that's stepping up, hitting some of those shots, breaking that rhythm, the downward trajectory when that happens, and looking at that. So, look, things aren't bright when it comes to the Mercury right now.
Yeah.
But when they are, you know where you should go? Our friends over at Shady Rays. They've got the best sunglasses in the business. They have the greatest policy in case you break or lose your glasses. They're going to replace them. And I love that, because I tend to misplace things like crazy. If everything had a warranty like that, I would be a much happier human being. But you know what also makes me happy is the fact that if you use the promo code PHNX, you're going to get 50% off 2 pairs or more of your Shady Rays. They've got the best designs. They're built to last, with premium polarized glasses or lenses. They are fantastic. And you can also not just order them online, but you can go to their store here in town and take advantage of that. And you know what? If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. They're the team that always has your back. So once again, exclusively for our viewers, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use that code PHNX for 50% off 2 pairs or more of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And once you get those sunglasses, you're going to want to enjoy your time, because you're looking cool, but you want to feel cool.
Especially in this state, too.
Yeah, well,
you're going to be wearing them all the time and over 300 plus days of sunshine.
Yeah, well, and you know what also you can enjoy in those 300 plus days of sunshine? OGs. Our friends over at OGs.
Beat me to it.
I did. I beat you to it. Our friends over at OGs have the best scratch-made edible THC gummies that you're going to find anywhere. They're local, and they got your back when it comes to the best flavors in the business. One of my favorites is the Aquaberry Sleep Edition. The CBN and THC 2-to-1 ratio is the thing that flavors my dreams. If I ever have problems sleeping, I pop one of those bad boys and I'm out for good. It is fantastic. Also, don't forget their strawberries and cream Happy Balance. It's another
I think that might be Saul's favorite.
Saul has a lot of favorites when it comes to OGs, but I think that's at the top of the list. So find them at your local dispensary at ogsbrands.com. Remember, you must be 21 or older to enjoy responsibly.
Can I say a cool sort of slogan?
Yes, you can.
You won't have to say OGs when you're using OGs.
I'll pitch that to them. We'll see what they say.
Okay.
All right. You're not going to get any cut of the revenue, but I'll pitch it to them
that's
anyways.
Fine.
You know what we might be saying OGs too is if the Mercury win a few too many games the rest of this way, and hurt their draft status for 2024. I'm a big
Yes.
believer in it's tank season, right?
Yes.
Like it's time to
Come on.
accept your fate, understand that you are working with Diana Taurasi, who has very few precious seasons left. Who knows how long Brittany Griner is going to want to keep playing the game after everything that's gone on with her. You need to put yourself in a position to add talent on the cheap. And the best way to do that is the WNBA draft. And this is a top-heavy draft. You need to set up new general manager Nick Uren with the best possible assets that you can. And what you're going to have to do is get a top draft pick. And we'll get into some of the other factors. Matthew in the chat asked about one of them. We'll talk to him. I'll talk about it after this. But are you with me where you need to take the chance in the draft lottery and wind up at the top?
Absolutely. So for those that don't know how it works, because I've literally found out like 2 days ago, so this is brand new to me too. So for the WNBA draft, actually I have the rules up here. So obviously 3 rounds, 12 picks. It's kind of like a snake draft in a way. But so it says that the draft lottery is with the 4 worst teams in the league. So in this case, it would be Indiana, Phoenix, Seattle, and I want to say Chicago, at least right now. No disrespect to our homies at CHGO Sky.
Disrespect.
Yes, actually,
any Chicago basketball team not good with me is what I'm saying.
So it'd be those 4, and then how it works is they take the records, the cumulative records from the previous 2 seasons, and they add them up, and then they do it that way. So if it were right now, Indiana would be favored with the number 1 pick. Phoenix would be favored with the number 2, and then Seattle. I don't know if it would be Seattle 3 or Chicago as at 4. It might be reversed. But they take the 2 records, they add them up, and then they do it that way. But Indiana right now is looking like the best bet. What does kind of help is that if for whatever reason Seattle and if for whatever reason Phoenix ends up being better than Seattle and they have like the same pick, Phoenix this season lost to Seattle all 4 times. So that might help in some capacity, but I'll say this on the record. I don't really care. I think a rig job might be happening. I think we might have a Patrick Ewing type of David Stern type of scenario. In the works. I don't know if Kathy Engelbert. I don't know if you got something up your sleeve, but if you do, feel free to let us know.
But look, for me, it's a 3-player draft. It's Caitlin Clark, it's Angel Reese, and it's Paige Bueckers. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I'd much rather be sitting, even if one isn't likely due to the way that they handle it, and I would much rather be sitting at 2, have my choice, than be sitting at 3 and taking whatever the other 2 teams want to leave for me, right?
Oh yeah.
And this is the kind of draft that you can really change the future of your franchise with this kind of player. Very much like when they wound up with DT or they wound up with Brittany. One of these 3 players have that kind of generational talent that you could really make the next 10 years of this team, this franchise, be something special. So I wouldn't screw around with this in any way. I'd make it very clear, hey, DT, maybe rest the rest of the way. Let's prepare for next year. You hit the 10,000 point mark. I mean, she understands the game and she wants to win. So sitting a little bit now to help win next year might not be the craziest thing.
No, absolutely. And I think the crazy thing too is almost every model that I've seen, I know it's very early for this draft. A lot of people are concerned because Paige Bueckers was injured. She only played about half of her sophomore year, was out her junior year with that ACL tear. And people are even saying that, she might go back to school. But at some point, you want to move on from the collegiate ranks to the highest level, which in this case is the WNBA. And, even in this projection, they're saying that Dallas will get Paige Bueckers from Chicago because Chicago has that draft pick. But why is this so important? Because Phoenix doesn't have their draft pick next year. They don't have the 2025 because that's going to New York for the Michaela Onyenwere trade. And so, like, I think you have one chance to knock it out of the park. And again, I'm just saying if Caitlin Clark isn't available, because if actually, hold on, Jacob, can you pull that chat up by Matthew? Bueckers may find a way to avoid the draft this season to better position herself. I get it. That's a good point, Matthew. But Minnesota might be making the playoffs, so it's going to be very hard for them to get her. Or if they do, they'll have to trade up. And I don't know what that would take. I don't know if Cheryl Reeve would be willing to do that. I think she's content with the team that she has now with Nafisa Collier, Jessica Shepard. Not Aerial Powers, though, which I'll send you those tweets later. It's kind of funny. I won't lie. But going back to Paige, I think she's the perfect fit for Phoenix. I think she plays off the ball really well. She is just very savvy, in my opinion. She doesn't need the ball in her hands. She can score from all three levels. She's a big mid-range scorer, too, which people are going to frown upon. Some of my buddies as well, who are big into analytics, are going to frown upon it.
Yeah, it works all right for the Suns.
Yes.
Going from the mid-range.
But she can score from all three levels. She's a great passer. And there was an article, I think 2 years ago, when Bueckers won, the AP Player of the Year, the Naismith Award, the Wooden Award. She said she's a great player because of her ability to pass the ball. And when you have the GOAT saying that about you, I think that's a very clear indication of who she wants and who you should get.
But so you're sold on guard being the position you go rather than forward. So,
absolutely, yeah.
So Angel Reese just isn't on your radar here.
No, because you have Breezy at the 4, right? And it's like she has a contract. Like her and Sophie are the only players under contract, like right now. Well, obviously in DT as well. But like Angel Reese, she's a great player. I am not disrespecting her in any way. She's a great player, great physical force, down low. She's a fantastic rebounder. But you already have that with Breezy. You don't need to have another. And I would not expect her to play center at all. But then again, you don't know if BG's going to come back. And that sounds silly to say, but if BG doesn't come back, then I think your second best bet, honestly, is Cameron Brink from Stanford. She's legit. Oh yeah. She, I think she was awarded the Defensive Player of the Year throughout the whole country by the National Women's Basketball Coaches Association. Averaged like 3.5 blocks. She is like, if you were to make a big in a lab, it would be her. She's tall, she's quick, she's athletic. Her shooting touch is, it's still a work in progress, but you know what you're getting defensively from her. And then a couple other good ones, Aaliyah Edwards as well. A lot of these are big post players, and I don't think you need that. I think you need someone on the perimeter, and it's evident because Skylar Diggins-Smith isn't there. You missed that. You missed that a lot this season, and I'm not expecting someone like a Paige Bueckers or a Caitlin Clark, or even if they fall really low, Haley Van Lith from LSU. I don't expect them to come in and just dominate. But I think if those players were to be drafted and they were to start, you can really see the pressure that they'll take off DT. And who knows, it might even add some years to her career.
You have the number 1 pick. Are you taking Bueckers or are you taking Clark?
Gosh.
Because
people are going to hate me for this. I
was just simply going to say, that there's a chance that that's where you're sitting. And this is a different question before Bueckers hurts herself, right?
Yes.
But now, injury being what it is, you're still going to go with her 1 over Clark.
No, but here's what I think you do. Phoenix shot themselves in the foot. If they had draft picks, this wouldn't even be a question. but they don't have draft picks next year. I don't know what their draft capital looks like for the next few years. And it's like, I think if you have the number 1 pick, I'm saying pick Caitlin Clark, but I think everything's on the table. I think you address
Trade down if you need.
Yeah, I think even if you trade down to 2 and you get another pick, or if you get a pick for 2025, who knows? And because look at, for example, what I said earlier with Dallas getting their pick from Chicago, that was a very simple trade. It was very simple, and Chicago keeps falling. Like, they've lost, I think, 5 in a row, and Dallas is going to get that pick. And who knows? Phoenix might have a situation like that where they trade with somebody and that team ends up just being completely terrible. Well, it's a free draft pick. So I'm not saying you don't draft Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying you draft Paige Bueckers over her, but I'm saying everything's on the table.
Which I think is interesting with a new GM coming in and a guy who's going to want to make his own mark. And Nick Urin, what does he want? What is his vision for this team? Because we've had Jim Pittman for years. So this will be a distinct change in that as well. And Matthew brought up the question about with Skylar Diggins-Smith becoming a free agent after this year. What do you look for with that slot that you're going to have open because of her? And that's another interesting question, how you build this team, is you will have salary available there. As you mentioned, not a lot of people in general under contract here. So you'll have a early draft pick, hopefully in the top 3, and then that opportunity to add beyond that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, she's a Supermax player, so she's making close to $300,000 a year. And that's, so she'll be off the books no matter what. You still have to sign BG. Again, that's if she wants to continue to play, because she took less money this year. And I would assume she would be on the max or the super max, whatever it is. I probably say super max because she'll probably make an all W team this season, as she should. So, that's a chunk of your salary. Like I said earlier, Megan Gustafson her contract expires. And I truly believe if she doesn't re-sign with Phoenix, a team like a Minnesota or a Seattle will throw a lot of money her way. I think they'll throw 6 figures her way, because she has shown that she can score at, honestly, at all 3 levels. And she, I would say, is a nightly double-double. And I like this little stat by Aya right here. So in 2024, they would have $633,000 in cap room.
Hey, don't forget the 42, the $633,042.
Sorry.
Don't
sorry.
Could make the difference.
Yes. But, I am interested, though, to see how Nick Urin would construct this team, because there's no identity. You don't know what you have Diana Taurasi and BG and
you said maybe BG.
Yeah, and some role players. But I think this draft is the ultimate moment where you're like, okay, are we going to, because there are teams, I'll give an NBA example, the Miami Heat, where they'll draft really well and they'll still be in contention. Do you go for that, or do you just say screw it and you just scrap it? Do you trade people?
You can't scrap it with DT. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's
unless
the thing.
DT decides she's retiring this offseason, you cannot scrap it. You have to at least put one more valiant effort together for her, because it's not fair to put the greatest player in the sport and in your franchise in a situation where she's got to sit here for a rebuild in the last year or 2 of her career.
Exactly.
And you're not trading her because you can't trade the greatest player in league history.
And plus, she probably wouldn't want it either.
So, at that point, I don't think it is an option. Unless she retires, the only option is, how do we make this work?
Yeah. And who knows? Nick Urin definitely has his hands full. But I'm excited, though. There's a lot of options on the table. Obviously Caitlin Clark. I do think a big thing, though, and I'll end this point on this, is I get concerned with personalities. It sounds so stupid. It really does. But Caitlin Clark's an alpha. She will go at people and not be afraid to tell you how she feels. And I think DT would love it or she would hate it. I think it would be one or the other. Paige Bueckers is one of those where, you know, she will let her play do the talking. And as she said in multiple interviews, I will never talk trash unless if someone starts first. And, you know, does that play a factor? I don't know. I think it's something to consider.
I think you need an alpha if you're preparing for the future without DT, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Because she has been that edge. She has been that alpha.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking, hey, I got 1 year, I want to be competitive and maybe have a shot to win, you know, and surprise some people. But I also have to have an eye to the future. I think having an alpha isn't the worst.
Yeah.
Idea.
You do make a very good point. But like we said, this is a very loaded class. I know we're only, I want to say, 8 or 9 games away from the season being over. Is it too late or is it too early, rather, to talk about this stuff? Probably.
No.
But you know what? I think it's the 3rd time that Phoenix has ever been in the lottery. And this will be the 3rd time. The previous 2 times, number one pick.
So might as well keep the trend going.
Exactly.
You know what my number 1 pick is?
What?
Four Peaks. I am very much a fan of the chicken tendies, the barbecue pizza, and the beer, of course. I am literally, the second we wrap this up, I am on my way to the 8th Street Pub to have dinner with a good friend and enjoy the great food and the great beer. I'm going to be having a tea-shot lager.
Don't lie, you're going to get the pizza that you always get. You're going to get the barbecue chicken pizza.
I just said that they're both elite. Maybe I'll convince my friend to get the chicken tendies and we can share. I don't know. But I will be having a tea-shot beer, that's for sure. And I'll be having a hell of a time at the 8th Street Pub because they are the best in the business. And the pumpkin porter lager, I saw it. It's in stores, which means it's at the brewery. And if you are a pumpkin fan, like Johnny Venerable is, you know, you're going to want to get out there because it's a limited time, but it's a great time while it's there. So make sure to head over to the 8th Street Pub. I was going to call it the 4th Street Pub. You'd be very lost if you went to 4th Street in Tempe. It's the 8th Street Pub. And check out at 4 Peaks Brew or at 4 Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Remember, you must be 21 or older to drink 4 Peaks. Please drink responsibly, but you can eat
Close
the food.
enough, Hayden.
Hey, I've got 3 days.
Hold on,
Close
you're
enough.
only 20?
Yeah,
you got 3 days till your 21st birthday?
I've got 3 days, yes.
My God, I thought he was like 25, 26. I didn't ask for ID when we started the show. I didn't know I needed to.
Oh, that's Saul's running joke. Every time he's like, Hayden can't read these ad reads because he's not 21.
Well,
now, like, joke's on you, Saul. Give me a couple weeks and we'll be there.
I skip through the ads when I'm listening to it, Saul. I don't
I feel like a lot
Saul,
of people do.
I don't want to hear Saul read ads, so I just skip through them. That's why I didn't know. Well, happy early birthday.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
hopefully
I will enjoy a pumpkin lager from 4 Peaks.
You come in here. The pumpkin porter's on me, which really is on Max because I.
Yeah.
But the fridge.
It's in that fridge back there.
That fridge better be stocked
That fridge will.
as soon as Max is back.
That fridge will open up and be a world of new possibilities for you in 3 days. It'll be great. But happy birthday! Hopefully
Thank
we
you.
get you the number 1 pick. And some entertaining moments, but the number 1 pick.
Yes.
After that, so enjoy the birthday.
I
we will
will
celebrate you being 21. And when we return on Monday, I don't know if it'll be me. I don't know if it'll be Saul, but we know you'll be here, given the great WNBA insight and in particular on the Mercury. So happy birthday to Hayden. I'm Espo. We will talk to you next time here on the PHNX Mercury Podcast. Ahoy, hoy.